good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening to our visitor from Rome. My name's Ted Liebman, and I have the honor of introducing Stephen Forneras. Stephen serves as our managing principal of the Perkins Eastman Guyaquil, Ecuador studio. He splits his time between Ecuador and New York, a difficult job. He's a strong proponent for developing safer buildings and sharing technology, especially in countries without the same protections as the US. He works to ensure buildings are well made, safe, and secure. He also, because I work with him, I know he is a very talented architect with a great understanding of culture, heritage, and humanity, along with his superb technical full architect proficiencies. He studied at Syracuse University, and he's a member of the American Institute of Architects and the International Codes Council. He even speaks at my new NYU affordable housing class each year. And the title is Popular Housing, which discusses informal housing in South America, the favelas, and how they might be called popular. So now I will give the floor to Stephen.
Thank you, Ted, and I really want to thank the consortium for inviting me. I'm excited to present this topic of the master plan for the decommissioning of the Guayaquil airport. And I was asked by the consortium to give a little bit more backstory as to not only just the plan, but a little bit more to what a company like Perkins Eastman encounters in these parts of the world when we begin to do something such as a master
Everyone
plan.
should mute their phones, please.
Steven, I think you're muted.
Stephen, you are muted. Stephen,
Okay,
you are muted.
I was muted along with everyone else. So can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so here are some shots of Guayaquil. But just very quickly, Perkins Eastman, we're an office. We are a firm with 24 offices around the world in 7 different countries, about 1,200 members in our staff. We specifically, I manage, as Ted said, the office in Guayaquil, Ecuador.
And I will share with Kat.
Oops. I manage the Guayaquil, Ecuador office, which curiously enough is only 5.5 hours off of New York, so a very quick flight. So to give you a quick little background about Guayaquil, Guayaquil is the city of the actual city, legal city is a little over 2.5 million, almost 2.7 million, but the greater area immediately around the city is close to about 4 million. Like a lot of developing cities, it has a very dense nucleus, but has expansive urban sprawl over the last few years, and a lot of informal communities. Guayaquil was a city that in 1920 had about 150,000 people, and is now, the greater area is tipping close to 4 million. So this level of growth is absolutely incredible. And the time that I've been in Guayaquil, I've seen this growth, and it's having a dramatic effect on the way people live, but also on the environment. Guayaquil is located in a very sensitive mangrove area, and you could see the tension really between the city to the right and the mangroves. Now, as soon as that highway goes through, you'll find that the informal communities will begin to grow in these mangroves. And we all know the need of keeping these sensitive communities and these mangroves, what they do for the greater planet. And it's a constant struggle within Guayaquil. So the project really that we're going to discuss is the what happens when they decommission this airport. A few years back, we learned that the 240 hectare site, which is in the middle of downtown Guayaquil, was going to be decommissioned and an airport was going to be moved outside of town. The new location of the airport was going to be about 43 direct kilometers outside the city in an area that was undeveloped. And there was a lot of activity from developers and different business individuals and the mayor about what to do with now the existing the old airport. And what had been decided at the time was there was quite a bit of talk about doing a free competition, something that's been happening a lot in South America, where they say, oh, we'll just invite anybody to come, you do some work, and we'll choose that free design, and that will become the design that we will execute. And I was brought in with a group of business individuals who said, hey, let's go speak to the mayor and see if we can get ourselves represented as one of those teams that could go after the free competition. Of course, as we were walking into, this is the mayor at the time, Jaime de Bot. When we walked into his office, they said, please do us a favor. Do not talk to him about charging a fee to do any type of planning. They don't like that idea. So I went in, we started speaking, and he said, hey, it would be wonderful for a firm such as yours, an international firm, to be involved in this. And I quickly said, well, we really wouldn't be interested because it's not, we wouldn't be able to do the type of project you need for free. Instantly, my partner looked at me and said, you got to be kidding me. I can't believe you're saying that. But then very quickly, I explained, I did go on to explain to the mayor that, hey, when major competitions happen around the world, their professionals are paid for their time to do this, and you get what you pay for. This is going to take about a year to do. It'll be about a staff of about 11 people just out of our office. And that's a significant investment for something you may not win. The mayor was very sensitive to this and said, okay, great, let's launch a bid to develop the piece, and the winner will get a sizable fee. And it was a very good fee that they put together. Looking at projects, it was surprising. But what was interesting is when the mayor started to share with us his ideas of what he thought the project would be, and it all centered around the Blue Lagoon. This was a plan that was presented while we were in the mayor's office, where he said, I've been thinking about the airport, and these are the thoughts that I have. And I really, if you guys are successful at winning the competition, I want you to consider these thoughts in your development of your project. He said, number one, we have a very dangerous community, so we need a wall around the entire area. Number two, we need to make something that's going to attract people to this part of the world. They said our rivers are all muddy and brown. I'd like a really beautiful blue lagoon, something like you'd find in like a Disney World. And he said that will attract people from around the world. And then we'll build high-end residences around it to be a beautiful, beautiful city, and we'll really be able to reactivate the community. He went so far as everyone knew the company that they wanted to bring in that was going to produce the Blue Lagoon that would attract, it would be the hook or the angle for the site. And when you look at Guayaquil, it is surrounded by a lot of water, and it's a mangrove city. The rivers are very alive. There's a lot of dirt. There's a lot of vegetation, and they thought, well, this doesn't seem like the type of community we want it to be. And the idea of a walled community had something that, like many communities in developing worlds, has sprung up, and it's become very popular, walled residential communities. So there's the airport in the background, and you're looking over a very wealthy community going into Guayaquil. And they just said, well, this is a great opportunity for a new walled center. So the question that we faced is, okay, we had all this information, we put the bid together. The mayor was quite serious about making sure that an international company could win it. We are local in Guayaquil as well as being international. We put a good number together, and we won the competition. But now what do you do once you've won it? So we knew what the mayor wanted and what the people around him were really pushing for. And we decided to press pause for a moment and figure that if we wanted to propose something different, we would have to come to some common ground on some areas. And we said, let's go and say, okay, let's first look at your opportunities. Everyone loves the opportunities. So you're a global port. There's a business destination, a place for work. That they've started a new dedicated bus line system in the country. Wonderful ecology of the area, and they had some beautiful old architecture. What are the challenges? So we went back to the mayor, and this was a very hard meeting with the mayor to talk about what the challenges were, because they agreed that the traffic was a problem. They agreed the security was a problem. They were very sensitive about that. They were agreed that that urban expansion was a problem. No one really wanted to talk about about the use of natural resources, and certainly the word equity just it didn't become an issue to talk about. We then again continued by launching and studying everything we could. Everything from all the way on the left, we were able to get maps of the traffic deaths in the city, and notice that on the north and south of the runways at the airport were the highest number of traffic deaths, accident deaths in the city. We studied flood projections, seismic conditions. Our local engineering group even counted every active telephone line within the region, which is probably a little bit too much, but we used all this information. Oops, I think we used all this information to then since we didn't have a program, we had to come back to the city with some type of a benchmark. We knew what they wanted, residential community, but we thought it could be a little bit more. So we started looking at different decommissioned airports around the world, from Chicago, Germany, China, Greece, Hong Kong. And we started to look and say, okay, you can do more than just one type of activity. Maybe we could do something that is that is a bit of a mix of a community. And we started to soften them to the idea that it could be more than just residential, that it could be something a little bit with a little bit more depth. We then came back as well and then started to really study the populations of different areas and look at that balance between what should the right mix be for the program within the city. Remember, for the master plan, they didn't come to nothing more than a blue lagoon was what we started with. We also at the same time studied the history of the city. We felt that these multiple parallel lines of study would fruit into some type of conclusion that we could draw into what to do with the city. We studied the history of transportation, major developments within the city. The green line is the population. You could see it go up significantly. And then major important events that had happened and how the city had changed. So with all this information armed in our pocket, we went back to the city and said, okay, let's think about it this way. Let's reframe a little bit what some of the thoughts are. Pause a moment thinking about the city. The airport was built in 1950, and this is 2018 that we were presenting this. The DC-7, the first successful commercial airliner, was launched just around that time. The city was about 258,000 people. And as the city has, and the airport was located in the little red spot, the airport was located on the left outside of the city, and the city has grown around the airport. Now the airport is in pretty much the center of the geographical region, and the largest airplane of our time can no longer land at that airport. So the most technological airplane at the time is not able to fit. Moving the airport out of town is a smart idea. We tried to reframe their thought that the airport land was not just about the city, but it was about a bigger area. We called it the Grand Guayaquil, because the areas to the right, Duran, San Brandon, Daule, are actually outside of the city, but they're really essentially part of the city. And they constituted a much larger population. And this piece of land was also going to be very important to them. We then came back with our first move was thinking about what the program should be, and based on looking at the rest of the work, we broke up, how much should be open space, how much should be cultural, how much should be mixed use. Interestingly enough, the mayor had a very strong idea. He said, I want to sell 60% of it, and 40% of it you can keep for infrastructure. He was a developer himself, and he said those are the numbers he wanted to hit, and we had to work around those numbers, or things we're not going to move around. So with this information, we came back to the mayor. We said, okay, well, now we have a program. Now we have to think about how to design your city. And herein we started a discussion that said, really, there's kind of two different ways that you can base your cities. You could base it around public transportation, or you could base it around private transportation, mode of transportation moving around the city. You could have the high density city with public transportation and large public spaces, or you can have the low density city, the private transportation, and a lot of parking lots and streets to move people around. Interestingly enough, the mayor immediately, even though Guayaquil is very much a car dependent city, the mayor immediately came back and said, we need to have a system that's based on public transportation, higher density, and public transportation. And we used some great diagrams that came from London School of Economics, urban studies, which dealt with which turned Atlanta and Barcelona, two similar cities, about 2.5 million, a little bit smaller than Guayaquil, looking at their public transportation system. And Barcelona, of course, has 99 the red lines on the inside of the public transportation systems. And we showed the mayor that, look, Barcelona has 99 kilometers of rail, and 60% of the city is within 600 meters of those stations. Atlanta, I didn't even know had a public transportation system. It does, with 77 kilometers of rail system, and only 4% of the city is within 600 meters of those stations. And to give the same saturation of rail system to Atlanta as Barcelona have, it was basically insupportable. It's over 1,000, would be over 1,200 square meters of linear kilometers of railway. This really helped the mayor come to the conclusion that he wanted to have a walkable city. He wanted to have something that he agreed with us. It's something that we could park the car and leave it behind. Then we came into the mayor and the group and started talking about a project vision, and we came up with three very simple goals. The first goal was going to be to reconnect, and the airport had blocked transportation from one part of the city to another. There was only one entrance in the airport. Obviously, that's the way you want an airport. You don't want people wandering on the runway or parking there. So we had to find ways to reconnect the airport back to the fabric of the city. We wanted to resolve some principal problems that the airport had created, and we focused initially on the traffic problems and the deaths around the airport. And the third is we wanted to rediscover Guayaquil as a destination place. The first move was to connect the new airport to the old airport. And then the second was going to be expand the convention center, which existed on the site, and look for something new that would attract people to the site. We felt connecting the airport, the new airport, to the old airport was critical. All of those little pins in the center, all the major hotels in Guayaquil, and where tourists come. Right now, it takes an hour and 30 minutes to drive from the one site to another. They're proposing new streets, so it would take it down to 40 minutes. We explored different modes of transportation, including a train and a dedicated bus line, to get that down to get that time down to as low as 20 minutes. Because we thought that if you could land in the new airport and get to downtown, and then get from downtown out in a dedicated way, that would greatly help the circulation in and out of the city. The next initiative we looked for was to expand the convention center. There's a very, very successful convention center that's located on the corner of the airport site. And we spoke to the individuals for the city that are running the convention center, and they said they could comfortably support 2 to 3 times the growth. We looked within the region and realized that there was a real deficit within the region for good large-scale convention centers. The closest being in Colombia, located amongst multiple sites. one to be built in Panama, but not completed at this moment. So felt that that was a real economic driver and opportunity. But then we were left with searching for something special. Beyond those first two very clinical moves, we started looking at Guayaquil and what is it about Guayaquil that makes it special? We knew the mayor wanted a blue lagoon and potentially a water park, but we started to look a little bit larger and realized that Guayaquil has tremendous animal life, flowers, and biodiversity, something that a lot of foreigners notice. And when you're living amongst it, sometimes you don't notice it. We then started to study botanical gardens around the world. And Guayaquil does have botanical gardens located outside the city, not very well kept, about 5 hectares and about 15,000 people a year visit. It's hard to find. We started to look at this and say, you could really make sort a Singapore type Gardens by the Bay, where they have 8.8 million people visiting it. In Jordan, in Amman, there's a plan for a botanical garden. Of course, the Eden project in northern Britain is another great successful project where, and all of these projects around the world are taking plants and flowers from they're found in Ecuador, very close and native to Guayaquil, in the botanical garden. So we thought, why not just exploit what exists there? We also then looked at the greater area around the city and started to see if we could connect various other initiatives, made a ring of projects throughout the city that connected them, and proposed that they started having ferry lines that could take people to the site and to different areas. The heart of the project was to place a botanical garden in the center of the project to bring the green, make it a green heart of the city, and keep and preserve what is the beautiful part of the mangrove within the city. To organize the community, we reproduced what they call estero, or little stream. The mangroves have a lot of little rivers between them. So we wanted to reinstitute the river that was originally there back into the city and into the community. We then decided to, we then worked with the city to say, okay, let's define 3 separate districts, and each district having its own character: a garden district, a central business district, and a marina district. Each of them having different types of densities, different types of plans. Remember, the original proposal was make it all high-end housing and sell it out. We said that we need to make different types of communities, different types of spaces. We then went through and started to define what each of these different communities would be. This is the garden community, which would be more for larger families, larger buildings. It would lower rise structures, very much a livable residential community. Some larger companies, universities, things like that. It would be centered around a botanical garden in the center of the project. The central district was the central business district, where we would take the old plane terminal and convert that into a mixed use shopping mall, but also transit hub. We would be moving over bus stops that are close to the site into this, and this is where the dedicated bus line or train line would arrive from the airport. It's also close, adjacent to the convention center, so someone could potentially fly in, get to the transit hub, get to their hotel right behind the transit hub, and then walk back and forth to the convention center. We provided some images and ideas of what this type of zoning and planning would look like. And finally, the Marina District, where we thought this could be more sort of an artsy type of district, touching the river. We buried the highway that was behind the site underneath the park, and this would be more of a lower rise sort of for housing and restaurants and that type of use. We would focus that around a Darwin museum. A lot of people go to Ecuador to go to the Galapagos, and we thought that this could be something wonderful, a museum about Darwin and innovation, about evolution that could be potentially a destination hub. We also then worked to connect this botanical garden to the existing mangroves. There's an existing mangrove located to the left of the screen, and we created a highline type bridge that would come over a small neighborhood and then take you back into the connect you to the park, and the park would go connected to the river. And we thought of this as a little highway, so that the every park you have in Guayaquil has iguanas and animals in it, and we figured we'll give them a little highway so they can go from back and forth to the river up over this area. And we really thought about connecting how this project would connect to the river as much as possible. Then for the mayor and the community, we provided some aspirational renderings on what this would feel like, what this would look like. Again, of course, all checking it, making sure that it worked with their economic 60-40, 60% sellable, 40% non-sellable, and ended up with a final master plan. The produced models for them and had a launching of it. So if we return back to the beginning, the project started with a large blue lagoon idea, and we felt very happy that we were able to make a very different type of master plan, one that provided mixed use communities, an area for live work within the city. But with this completing, we felt we weren't done there. So even though it wasn't asked for, we did a lot of thinking and thinking about what happens when we're gone, and what else could they use this for. So we provided them a lot of extra studies about the mobility. So how would we connect this to the airport, and how would we do an interloop within the project? And we gave them very decent studies on how working with Avert Arab. We gave them some wonderful studies on how to complete this. We also spoke to them about how to deal with things such as their water. They have tremendous rainy seasons, and our small lagoon could go from 5 hectares to 7. And that was used as a retention pool, and the water all around was there were ponds all around that would be used as retention pools for heavy rains. And we also gave them a guide to how they could really think differently about sustainability within the city. This will be a large impact on the grid, the power grid of the city, also for sewage. So we showed them how they could do that with other technologies that they weren't presently used to using, and really said we should start thinking about solar. We should start thinking about producing our own energy for this community, and gave them some very, very specific diagrams, even how to handle garbage and garbage collection throughout the city. The study also spurred a whole bunch of other side studies when we realized, hey, let's see if we can move the bus station. There's a principal bus station that was located to the south, and all of the accidents were people coming in and out of that bus station. So we proposed moving the bus station to the site, but then also making smaller bus stations around the city that could help take the pressure off of that area. And to my knowledge, they are starting to build these other bus stations, and all of this came out of this study. We even were able to get pricing on what it would be to move this around. When we proposed a transit hub, we went very deep in terms of saying, hey, this is how you're going to do it. This is how the train from the airport would come in. This is how many buses you'd be able to park, because these were the initial questions that would kill the ideas. They said, how could you move the bus station from one to the area? Can you fit all the buses? We could fit all the buses. And we showed them in diagrams how we could do that. We also then started to dream a little bit and say, if you move your bus station, you could expand that whole area corridor by the river, which is really valuable. And so think about that as a future project, and about continuing to expand it in the same walkable way that your city would be expanding. And we gave them what would be, we focused on what would be your income if you did that. The other thing we did is we were very conscious of the fact that these types of projects start and stop all the time. And This is a portion of that sadly we were correct about. This project was supposed to start in this year, 2022. But when COVID hit and other priorities came around, obviously number of air travels went down. So moving the airport became a low priority. So we thought it was important to communicate, to leave things that could communicate the greater vision about the project in multiple ways. So we did produce the plan. We also produced a wonderful series of cartoon sketches, which were a great little book about arriving to Guayaquil, what it's like to take the train from the airport to the center of town. What do you see when you go to the botanical garden, the museum, spending a night with, so it's a family coming to visit and then leaving Guayaquil. To try to tell the narrative of this is what you want your community to be like, and let's design something around that. And then the last thing we did is that we put together a video. We felt that we felt that after, well, this is not the last thing, but another object we did was put together a very high quality video that explained the project very quickly, because we knew, again, that a few years out, the vision of the project might not be remembered. So how could we let somebody turn back to 2018 and remember what the project was? So I'll play this, and Ted, you can tell me if you can hear it, because it's a quick little 3-minute video describing the project.
My name is Bradford Perkins. I'm the chairman and CEO of Perkins Eastman Architects. Our whole firm is built around people who believe that if we do our job right, we can make a positive impact, sometimes at a very large scale. And we've had the opportunity to do this all around the world, in New York, in Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, and quite recently in Washington, D.C. We found that there are times in the histories of cities when there's the opportunity to make a major transformative moment. The Guayaquil opportunity is one of those times. You don't get a lot of them in your career, but when you do, and if you do the job right, there's no question that you can have a significant positive impact on a lot of people's lives.
One can think of a city as an organism. It is in a process of activity all the time, day and night.
Cities are organic, they're systems. But cities are made up of people, and people are sort of the building blocks on which you build a city. So starting with the people is very important.
The challenge of Guayaquil is really quite unique.
By converting the present airport back into city, we have 240 hectares of open terrain that now can be shaped into the heart of the city.
Sobre el cual podemos cimentar desarrollos de nuevas economías, de un nuevo distrito de desarrollo central para toda la ciudad que nos va a permitir crecer Guayaquil por las próximas décadas.
When we started in this project, we really wanted to understand how the city grew, why Guayaquil is the way it is today.
All of Guayaquil used to be a series of rivers. When the city built up, they filled up the rivers. And we lost a sense geographically of what the city was.
Our design looks at making as many connections as possible to the environment, but also to the existing city.
We're conceiving of 3 principal districts: a marina district, a central business district, and a garden district. The central organizing element is a little stream that's going to begin in the Green Heart and stretch all the way to the Marina District. The district adjacent to the Garden District is the Central Business District. This is the new downtown. It also will have a transit hub with potentially a connection to the new airport. The Marina District, located right along the edge of the river, will have that downtown marina feel to it that so many cities around the world do.
Estamos proponiendo muchos espacios nuevos, abiertos, que van a permitir a toda la población acercarse y tener sitios de esparcimiento que no tienen actualmente.
People can bike, can run, can have a coffee. see. The idea is for people to have different experiences.
Our hope is by creating sort of a green heart and reconnecting with the estuary, that will start to generate new synapses, new opportunities, and new growth in the city.
The system is going to pump flood back to the city, and it's going to tie back to all the existing elements that Guyaquil celebrates.
There will be a central garden, a world-class convention center, a Darwin museum. It'll be the only city in the world that has a highway just for the animals.
La visión de este proyecto es crear un sitio comparable con unas ciudades de clase mundial. Queremos que Guayaquil sea un destino global.
This project is going to be the center of Guyaquil going into the 21st century. It's going to become the spark of what will transform the city into the city of the future.
So we finished with the video. We also completed 3 large volumes of books that contain all the studies and all of the analysis that was worked on, and leaves a roadmap for another party to pick this up in the future at whatever time they would choose to pick it up. And there we go. So the bit that I have to there. So we launched that program and it was very successful. The video itself was kind of amazing. You see a lot of times how many people view videos. I believe that on the principal site there were close to 30,000 views of that video, and it worked to really try to communicate very quickly what the project was. So what's happened since then? We were very excited. The buzz around the city was kind of tremendous, and a new mayor came in, and we were called into the mayor's office, and they said, you know, this has inspired us. We want to do a master plan of the whole city, which was kind of interesting because when one of our conversations with the former mayor, I asked, do you have a master plan for the city? And he said, we don't have a master plan for the city. It's not the job of a mayor to do a master plan of the city. It's the job of a mayor to address what the business community wants to do, react to them, and provide what they need. And we got into a kind of a lengthy debate about, well, no, I think the two of you can try to align what you're doing, but work together. But the new mayor caught on to the idea and said, let's do a master plan for the whole city. We got very, very excited about it. And then they decided, rather than do a competition or rather than hire outside consultants to do it, they could do it internally. So they hired a young architect to start working on the master plan of the city. And the result has been a number of public pools and other healthcare facilities have been built, a lot of popular housing. But we haven't come up and worked on a master plan for the. No one has worked on a master plan for the whole city or identified how to handle some of those problems. And as for the airport, I've been told that the project is still on the table, and they're just waiting for the number of flights to increase to a tipping point that will allow them to bring in the consortium to work on first building the new airport, and then they'll begin with this. So we're still very hopeful that something might happen, but certainly one of the challenges in a country like Ecuador for a firm like ours is we tend to look at these much more holistically than just hey, what is the number of houses that you can produce in the project, and trying to shift the thoughts is always a challenge. But we're still quite proud of it, and we're still hoping that elements of this will continue. So Ted, I'm not sure if you had any direct questions. I know this is not necessarily a forum for a lot of open questions, but I'm not sure if you had any or any parts of it that you thought I should continue to address.
Well, the first thing is I wanted to mention that this project, which one can just look at as a project, it clearly influenced Guayaquil, and that's wonderful. But secondly, you had your people in Guayaquil, and we were involved as well in New York, and worked with Ana Rubo's local project challenge and the university in Guayaquil to take a project and develop it and to address the sustainable development goals, to see how well we were doing and maybe inform Perkins Eastman. And it ended up that that was a successful relationship. I think we all learned a little bit more about what we preach about in the sustainable development goals. And even more importantly, we had the very young students and our people in our firm, both offices, learn a lot, and we were given an award. What this project teaches me is that one can start with a small project like one building. And when one looks at the environment and thinks of our challenges for today because of climate change, we begin to think of expanding it environmentally, educationally, politically. And this project did all of those things. So it's an excellent project. What I should ask you, in your community meetings, and you had lots of them, how do you introduce the necessity to expand spending money on climate issues, resilience issues, when it's so difficult to solve even the most basic needs? You know, what discussions, how do you bring things up that are challenging local people who, you know, want short-term local solutions to terribly important problems versus the long-term global issues? What's our responsibility as architects to do that? And how did you do it?
Well, I think there's two responsibilities. One, I think it's constantly the importance of pushing good design and promoting these issues. It was not asked for us to talk about a number of the issues that we discussed. We brought them up into the forum when discussing it with the mayor and the community. I recall towards the end of the presentation, the mayor saying, "Well, I like this, but I don't see a wall. There's no wall around this." And we said, no, there's a wall. There's a green wall. It's a green wall. It's and I don't think he got that it was horizontal as opposed to vertical, but it really relied on remaining very nimble for that. I do, you know, your question is very good, because someone else has sent another question about, you know, how does a project like this really affect the marginal communities? And it's interesting. You know, there was a lot of discussion of that when we launched the project. Many people came to us and said, "Well, what is going to be the breakdown of the housing? Is it all going to be for wealthy people? Is it all going to be for middle class people? Is it going to solve our housing problems?" We were very clear about saying this is one development for a piece of land in the city. We don't think that it can solve all the problems for the city. We do think that it could be the spark of thinking about the city differently. We did project in the idea of having this botanical garden and connecting the botanical garden to other parts of the city. We were hoping that someone will pick up on the idea that all of the gardens in Guayaquil, the parks, could be connected and allow green corridors to come through the city. In terms of the housing, we were very clear about saying that this is not just for wealthy people, it's for mixed use, so and mixed levels. And it's a challenge to have that discussion even in those environments, because there's a real feeling that that you build communities based on economic levels. And when we got a lot of pushback, you know, they'd say, "Okay, yes, I understand that New York, it's you know, where you come from, it's very different and things work there, but things are different here." And we tried to express with them that that you have to start somewhere. And we felt that this was I guess we felt this was with this one little insertion, maybe this could allow it to grow throughout the city. We do recognize, though, that a city like Guayaquil, growing at the rate that it is, the problems are immense. This would not solve the whole thing, but we would hope that it would turn light on the city, that would begin to make them feel proud that they are heading in the right direction, or have an interesting project. Does that answer your question? Any others?
I think yes. So do you have any other lessons learned that you learned personally in working on a project of this scope? And what do you think are the limitations due to dealing with mayors and all the stakeholders, that how do we face our limits?
Some of the lessons learned in this project really point to the we thought they focused around getting people inspired and excited about a project, rather than excited and inspired about the money. There were quite a few people in the business community lined up and ready to go and say, can we just make a plan of the area, put it into lots, and we'll start selling it tomorrow. And we kept trying to say, well, we have to make it more than just selling the lots. It could be something greater. What we were also pushing for, and we did have success with this, is by showing that the city or the plan was being respected on an international level, it made them value it more. When the plan won an award in New York for the design, it was publicized greatly in Guayaquil, and they said, "Oh my gosh, maybe there's something in this." So, in those communities, sometimes when they get recognition from other parts of the world, it helps really reinforce working on these projects in this way, because oftentimes they think nobody's really looking at us. Nobody really, we're just climbing up the ladder. We just have to, do what we can to get by. But if we can make these communities single them out and say, look, they're great, not just great, they're better than what we're doing. And if we could have this opportunity, this would be great. So we tried to do that a lot. The other strong lesson learned was, the patience in navigating the different pieces. We had to push back a lot. This felt like a real rough construction meeting every time we met. There was a lot of emotions. There was a lot of individuals saying, you're going off the path. You have to stick to just chopping this up into a. You have to stick to just chopping this up into a real estate plan that we can sell. We just kept inserting our foot into the door and said it could be more. It could be more. In fact, beyond that, we have been introducing the quietly, well, not just quietly, very formally, we keep telling the city that when you develop a project like this, you need to put together a large administration infrastructure to develop something this big. They kind of really thought they could just get a few people together, open up a sales office at the corner of the site and start selling lots. And we said, no, you'll need financing for this. You'll need to be able to put together a very clear administration. So there's a lot of challenges, but it's also wildly interesting. We'll see where it comes as it goes forward. Like I said, it hasn't been squashed yet. So that's the part we're excited about.
Because I know a little bit about you, Stephen, and your last few decades, when you first arrived in Ecuador, and you noticed the deficiency in codes, and I see that you're on the International Codes Council. I know you have a passion for this. Are you still involved in that? And is there something you could tell this audience that is important? And I must tell you, I asked this question because yesterday on a housing committee meeting in New York, we found out that there are 40,000 vacant apartments because small landlords cannot afford updating each apartment to make it code compliant. And should we reduce the code requirements to allow this to happen for smaller developers and owners? And so I get excited about when codes tighten because it makes our long-term future better. But since you're a codes genius, tell us where you think codes and ordinances that are affecting our cities because of climate and other environmental issues, as well as ADA and for handling more inclusion of disabled persons. What is the plus? What are the pluses and minuses in your mind in this, both in South America and in our New York?
Interesting question, and probably even a topic of a whole nother discussion. But
yes,
there's a lot of aspects to building codes and zoning ordinances. You're all right. It is something I've spent a lot of time being concerned about. In fact, coming back to the United States a number of years ago and becoming a New York State code enforcement official, just to understand how the code works here. And I sat for a number of years on the Ecuadorian Code Committee to develop a new code, which never ended up forming. And right now, they're quite honestly, the code is it's almost non-existent. It's really haphazard, and there's no enforcement. I often hear people throw up their hands in disappointment when a disaster hits a developing or an emerging city, and they say, well, it's the building inspectors are corrupt, and there's a lot of corruption in the process. I beg anybody to find corruption in the process in Guayaquil, because there's no building inspectors. They don't have building inspectors. So if you don't have a building inspector, there's nobody to corrupt. You have to pay somebody to corrupt them. The system isn't there yet, and simply not there yet because the city back in 1920 was 150,000 people. Now it's close to 4 million. The explosion is there's no long history that they've had to grow with incidences and disasters. Shifting slightly to our involvement as a firm in this, we do continue to involve ourselves all the time. In fact, myself and another member of our staff in Guayaquil, Monica, is going to assist me on. We're going to be teaching the fire department how to do post earthquake evaluations of buildings. There are only 7 earthquake evaluators in Ecuador, and there should be thousands. So we have both of us have become certified in the California Office of Emergency Services CalOES SAP program, and we're now instructors, and we're going to be teaching it to people down there. It's very difficult as an American architecture firm to work in oftentimes it's challenging to work in different parts of the world, because there aren't the same regulatory systems. Far too often, what happens is we look and we say, well, they must have their own system. I'm sure that it's going to work. We'll leave it to them. We'll just give them a sketch or an idea and we'll move on. We don't look at it like that when we're in South America and when we work in Guayaquil. Our office is close to 30 people down there, and we take it very personally. My daughter lives in Guayaquil presently, so I'm very concerned about the safety of buildings. I was always concerned about the safety of buildings when she was growing up. Why did her cousins in Connecticut go to theaters that had proper exits and she didn't? Why should she not have that same advantage? You can really look at building codes and zoning as an equity discussion. And it is something that we can share very freely. In fact, another member of our office in Guayaquil is taking the International Energy Code and working with some private groups in the city of Quito to see if they could get parts of that adopted in that city. So as an international architecture firm, we believe that it's our responsibility not only to share the work that we do, the design and the technology, but also any experience we have that comes to life safety, codes, egress, and what you see in one city. How do you jump on a plane and a couple hours later and just forget that you need 2 fire stairs in a building? You just can't. So we implement the same thing when it comes to something like this, like a master plan. When we were asked originally, just draw a little pretty picture, we said there's a lot more to it than that. So we look at a lot of our work in South America as continuing to push the bar and over deliver. Yeah, we over deliver on everything we do and overwhelm them with work, hoping that it'll catch on and create a spark somewhere.
One more question from the audience. Jessica Morris asks, what parallel tactics did you use in communicating the evolution of ideas throughout the project as it developed? For example, the sketch story, integrating the Blue Lagoon. How did you work to bridge cultural differences while maintaining or adapting the planning process? The governance development alongside planning, was that a learning process? For example, build a plane as you're flying it.
Well, very interesting. What we did, the process was almost covert. We kept very, very quiet. We didn't spread information around. The mayor instructed us to do that. We followed that. The mayor said, listen, if this gets out there, you talk about it too much, there are going to be people rushing in here. And in fact, actually, when we even won the competition, there was an immediate protest of some architects in the city that said that they weren't being fairly considered. So we kept our cards very tight and close until we could launch everything at once, because we knew it would muck up the process. It was difficult enough with the group that we had to get everybody together. And we spent a lot of time focused on our presentations to get the user group comfortable with the ideas. And we built some of the ideas. And I'm going to comfortably say, I don't know, but I'm going to speculate that in the final design, when it was presented in a movie form and everything that was there, that the mayor might have even said, I hadn't really thought that was everything in there. But the reaction came back very strong from the community. So when that happened, it was adopted very well. Really, your audience is ultimately the community. If the community did not, if the community did not welcome the design, wouldn't happen. And we kept saying that along the way. So we worked with the group along the way to show them bits and pieces. And interestingly enough, I think we did get a stronger reaction from the general community than even the user group that we were working with, because they could see more of themselves in the project.
Damu in the audience asks, when I visited Guayaquil in 1976, we saw the houses on pilotis along the outskirts. The downtown was manageable, but rest was hellish. When is the right time to revisit? When will your wonderful work be implemented? Now, I think she would like you to be there when she revisits. And that was a clear invitation for your being the host. But how is the progress going, just in terms of construction?
As I mentioned, the progress on the next phase will begin when they start working on the new airport. Again, that's just a matter of when flights increase enough in Guayaquil to get the consortium building the new airport to begin. They have plans, they're ready. When that starts, they will then move this to a next phase, which will be a development phase. This is just a concept, an idea. Now it has to, actual plans have to be developed that could be, it could be chopped up. Zoning regulations have to be developed for the site. They're going to do special, it's been put in the booklet. We've given them sample zoning regulations for the site, building regulations for the site, and those have to then now be formalized. So it's really going to be putting an administration together to manage it and move the project forward. Now the real work begins.
Yeah. Now, how is aside from the film, how are we or the community or the local people remembering and the vision? You know, is there almost a public relations way? Do you continue to meet with the community to keep them informed on progress? Does that happen within the government?
Well, the government has not been, they may be doing that on their own, but we're not involved in promoting it beyond lectures and talks that we do about the project, and we give out copies of the books as freely and quickly as we can, usually in digital form.
We are at the exact moment. If there are any other questions from the audience, you can unmute and ask. I think we could take one more question. And then I want a moment to thank Stephen. There's quiet from the audience, therefore, Stephen, I think this project, but more importantly, international work must be accomplished because we have to, around the world, have to understand the entire world. And you know, I attended a World Urban Forum, and Lance Brown is on this call, and I must say, I learned so much from everywhere and everyone, and it makes climate change, which we feel here, even more essential when you see how it affects local communities everywhere. And we're living in a very difficult time, and I thank you, and I just think that with climate, pandemic, homelessness, politics, we have a complexity today that makes the professions of architecture, urban design, and planning to produce long-term visions and promote them so that we can have not only corrections of fixing up storms and rebuilding what gets torn down by disaster. We have to have a vision, so that a long-term vision for the planet. And I think I learned that, and that's why I participate in the UN Habitat activities, and I encourage everyone to do so. And let's keep green cities alive each month. Thank you. So thank you all. And I guess that's it, Irina, for Green Cities and Rec. Green Cities, August 2022. Thank you so much, Stephen. It was great.